everyone. Welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Rowe. Big Jim and Goodey are with me as usual. We're going to take a look back at one of the greatest Premiership finals ever. We'll be chatting all things Lions, from Alun Wyn Jones' injury and Conor Murray replacing his skipper to the issues in South Africa at the moment. And we've got one of the key men behind Quins' Premiership triumph, Jerry Flannery, and Big Jim's nemesis, Saracens, player of the season, Tim Swinson, is on the show.
Oh.
So make sure you've subscribed to Spotify and open your cloth, because we've got some dissecting to do. How's your week been, boys?
I'll hit you straight. Hell of a week. Hell of a 7 days, Andrew.
He's buzzing. He's buzzing, isn't he?
Yeah. I am. I'm going to go through mine first, Andrew, before I ask you about yours. It all started, didn't it? On Tuesday, for me it did, where I promised myself and the millions and my wife that I need to be down there Tuesday, the calm before the storm, the live show on the Wednesday, just to wet the whistle. And I went overboard again. I indulged too much on the Tuesday night at the Wolfpack Bar, watching the football, watching England. Watching Scotland suffer their loss in the Euros.
Yeah,
we're out.
Nice.
So I did. I was thirsty. I was excited. I did the stag do 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 pints of Guinness responsibly. Rock and IB if you're absolutely bollocks and you've missed 2 days. But nonetheless, how good was it to be at a live show on Wednesday? I'll answer the question. It was unbelievable. So as we speed through that, we can talk about other stuff. Weekend at the Rugby, I was there. Friday and Saturday, I was with the Famous Grouse, Andrew, and I know I spoke to you about them on the phone. What a company to work for. The Famous Grouse. I had a wicked couple of days with them and their ambassadors, Matt Dawson, Jamie Heaslip, Shane Williams, Gavin Hastings, just 5 rugby legends. I put myself in that, of the British and Irish Lions. I don't know why I was there, but I was.
I was going to say, I'll just stop you there, because there's 4 British and Irish Lions there and Jim Hamilton. How's that work?
Well,
Were you the chaperone? Were you the security, the chaperone? Which one was it?
I was there as an ambassador for the Famous Grouse. All I'm saying is, if Gavin Hastings is there and he played in the amateur era when it was black and white TV, my good self was more than qualified to be there. But no, jokes aside, I was there at the game at the weekend, and I've had a brilliant week. Things are getting back to normal. A bit hoarse from the camel. I mean, just talking a lot and interacting and socialising again, which felt right. It feels what I should have been doing for the last 18 months. Obviously, you can't, but I mean, instinctively inside, like that's me. That's who I am. I'm a people person, and I've absolutely loved the last week. And like we mentioned before, I will never take for granted the busy life that we had before the lockdowns began, and we were in amongst people on stage, laughing, smiling, drinking responsibly, and smiling. So yeah, I've had a brilliant week. I've been very lucky to have been to the match at the weekend to see the British and Irish Lions live against Japan. And I've been buzzing ever since. So, but then it's a family man, isn't it? After that, and you just put on the brave face. I'm all right.
Well, you said you were buzzing. You had an amazing time with Famous Grouse and everything at the Lions game. But I saw a picture that Shane Williams put on Instagram. He'd fallen asleep in a chair somewhere. What's wrong with you, kid? Is it the recovery from the live show? Is it?
It's trying to break the habits of lockdown, which is around that time in my house. I go away to the bedroom, and as Beck calls it, it's the gym half an hour where I meditate. Basically, I fall asleep. I'm absolutely ball bagged because of the excitement. To get away from the kids, I go up and I close my eyes and read my eyelids, which is an unbelievable book to read. There ain't a lot on there, and silence. And it was a hard thing to break. That was. So everyone was asking what I was doing. I said it was meditation. And I basically got out of work for about an hour. So I apologise for that. But Shane Williams, thank you for tagging me. I got 3 more followers off the back of it. And again, I smiled just off the back of that as well.
Nice, James. Nice.
Andrew, you? Farm?
Well, no, I tell you what, Thursday was a difficult day because we did the old live show Wednesday night, which was amazing. It was great to be able to, felt like a rock star. We had a green room and everything. Normally we rock up at a bar or a pub or an event space, and it's basically you're bareback, you're at the bar, then you're on stage, then you're back at the bar in with the masses. We had our own green room, didn't we?
It was rock and roll.
So, there was a dodgy sofa that had a few stains on it, so there's been a fair few rockers that have maybe sat there previously, sweated. Yeah, we'll call it sweat. There was the mini bar, fridge, call it what you will, got destroyed. And it was great fun. We ended up having a few scoops afterwards, didn't we? In a very upmarket place, which was very nice, courtesy of Jim, where he was staying. And then eventually get home and, thank God the nanny came on Thursday. That's what I'm saying. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm glad to say I had no work on whatsoever, purely because it just took a long time to recover. I was so excited at the live show. I wasn't ill. It was just, maybe it's long form COVID or long form hangover. Is it the same thing? But basically, it took a good 2, 3, 4 days for me to bounce back, and I'm back today. Monday, feel great. Because the nanny's back. I don't know. It took 2, 3, 4 days to recover, and I'm back again now. It's Monday. The nanny's back. The podcast is back, and I've got my my mojo again. So I didn't admittedly have the busiest weekend like you did, Jim, with work, but I did get a lot of rest after that live show on Wednesday night.
What did you think, Andrew, when you saw me? So, like we saw Andy Rowe again, we saw Gorgeous Chris, and it's been a while since we have seen each other in person, and the new normal is virtually. What was your first thing when you saw me? Like, because, a lot of people pass judgment. I pass a lot of judgment. Like, if I see someone, I'll be like, tell his arms that, tell his belly that, tell his ankle that. This is you at the top of my mind. I thought arms have got skinnier, belly, and you had this funny waddle. Your left foot was pointing the wrong way.
No, my left foot's the good one. It's the right foot that's absolutely slippered. Because
was it the right one?
Yeah, 3 of the screws. I've got 11 screws in my leg.
I've got
11 screws in my leg.
Pointing back.
3 of them are snap, mate. So I don't know what's happened there. Maybe it's the weight gone through it. But what did I think of you after coming back into contact with you live?
You were excited
over Zoom. I was very excited. And all I thought was, Jesus, Sons hasn't worked on your head, has it? That's all I could think of.
It is working slowly. It's thatching slowly, but you could say that's to do with the kids. Andy Rowe, what did you think when you saw us? Just legends or what? What was the feeling?
Legends, yeah. That was great. It was one of my highlights was the arm wrestle. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Obviously, what happened, obviously. I've given Jim so much shit about his arms. The question came from the crowd, who'd win out of an arm wrestle between Jim and Goodey? Jim takes it so seriously. I'm just thinking, I feel for him. He's had his Graves' disease. He's got a baggy white T-shirt on. He's got noodles for arms, like pieces of spaghetti coming out there.
Just say it. I put him through the table.
He was ready. He was I could see it in his eyes. He was so hungry for victory. I'm like, I've just got to build up his confidence here. I'll just let him flip my arm over. And he actually thought I tried. That's the embarrassing thing. He was pumped, ready to go like it was his World Cup final.
It was. That's the best thing that happened to me in the last 2 years.
I ain't bothered, mate. It's a man test. I ain't bothered. Arm wrestle, who cares? Jim's like giving it the big licks, thinking he's the hardest bloke in there. So you are, Jim, in your baggy white T-shirt with 0 traps. Your shoulders are gone. Your arms are looking minuscule compared to how they used to, and the hair's gone thinner. You've basically got thinner all over, and I've got fatter. But you could still beat me in arm wrestle even if I didn't try.
We'll get into the Premiership final shortly, but there was huge news around the British and Irish Lions at the weekend with Captain Alun Wyn Jones, who's played in every test on the last 3 tours, being ruled out with a shoulder injury, and Conor Murray replacing him as skipper. How big of a blow was that to the Lions, lads?
Yeah, it's big. And it's obviously very sad. And I was there when it happened. Obviously saw it live, saw the mechanism. A lot of people saying it was his wrist. The mechanism is definitely that of going overboard and getting cleared out. Mentioned John Welsh, Jasper Visas in the season. I've been in that position myself, of course, like a human question mark. The Japanese were very physical around the breakdown, and it was almost like a nothing thing. Alun Wyn Jones isn't that great over ball either. He's just a bit of a nose, isn't he, slowing it down? But is that answer to your question? I know that everything's come out saying, it doesn't matter, we'll just crack on. For me, it's a huge blow. Not just because he's a good player, because of his leadership credentials, and he's obviously been the front man going forward for the tour. No one else has really stood out. Me and Andrew, because we love our ruggers, we're chatting about it on the phone. I know he's got his feelings on Conor Murray, thinks it's a good choice. I don't really know. I always feel like you need a forward, a bit old school, especially to go down to South Africa. It's a huge blow. It is. And I think you've got to feel for him as well.
Yeah, look at you changing your tune, Jim, because it wasn't long ago. You were like, he shouldn't be on the tour. There's no way he should be skipper. Then he got player of whatever he got player of. And, you're slowly turning and listening. And then it is a massive blow, isn't it? Because, there's a lot of people that questioned Alun Wyn Jones a year ago, didn't they? around his form. And that comment you said there, Andy Rowe, about the fact that he's played in every test match of the last 3 tours is a phenomenal achievement for one. The longevity of the guy, the ability of the guy, and ultimately now the leadership on what would be his 4th tour as the main man. Skips, obviously Warburton was skipper last time. It is a massive blow in terms of the leadership. In terms of form as well, he played himself into guaranteeing the fact that he started the test by being named as skipper as well because of his form. So it is huge. People questioned the line out, people questioned other things around it, but he answered all those questions in the Six Nations. And I think it is a huge blow when your talisman as skipper is someone that stands there in a red jersey. He's a massive human being, isn't he? That does put it about, loves the niggle, will speak to a referee in the right way. He'll bring his height down to the referee's level and things like that. So it's a huge loss. Make no bones about it. You have to crack on, right? You have to say next man in. Obviously, we're seeing Adam Beards come into the mix now. There's then a bigger responsibility on other players within the group like Maro Toji. We saw Tyg Byrne at the weekend playing 6, but playing exceptionally well. Who's going to be the other partner in the second row to Maro Toji? Is it going to be Courtney Laws? There's then a huge responsibility to other players, but it is a huge loss. The flip side of it is you have to crack on. You have to now say, well, that is parked, and Conor Murray's named as captain. There's slots available across the team, but second row, someone's got to step up and be that dominant physical character in the row that Alun Wyn Jones was going to be.
All I'm saying as well, now I know there's a lot of emotion, and I'm sure there was a lot of emotion for him, and he knows straight away how serious it is. Have you ever seen a human being take a dislocated shoulder as well as he did in terms of the pain management? How hard?
Yeah, mate.
And the guy's hard as nails. It is an absolute horror when you do it. It is so painful, and you can see he's in a lot of pain, and he's even come out of the changing rooms to watch the lads finish the game without a sling, obviously trying to hide arguably how serious it was. But mark of the man, he must be absolutely gutted. But when it's all said and done, not that his career's over, and who knows what's going to happen if it isn't as bad as it could be with surgery and all that. First test, second test, we don't know how the Lions are going to unfold. We don't know what other injuries. If that is the end of his Lions career, there's another 4 years. I ain't writing him off ever again, is all I'm saying. There's obviously a Lions tour in 4 years.
Nice,
I am
James.
not sat here saying that Alun Wyn Jones will not make that tour because, well, let's say it, because if I do say that, he probably will. Alun Wyn Jones, that's it. That's the end of your Lions journey. But I hope it's not. What I'm trying to say is he might get back. You know what I mean? They might fly him back out there. Who knows what's going to happen?
How good would that be for everyone if that did happen? If it wasn't as bad, I think it's a dislocated shoulder, and some people, he's the kind of warrior that could recover really quickly from that. And you never want to speed anyone through, but if there's anyone that can do it, I'm sure Alun Wyn Jones is the man. That'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it? Imagine that third test. It's one test apiece. You need big Alun Wyn. He comes on, kicks the winner, or does something to get the winning penalty. That'd be a great story.
Are you surprised that Murray's taking over the captaincy?
I am. Andrew's
Are
not.
you, James? Are you?
I am. Yeah, I am. Yeah. And
who would you have then instead? So you're surprised?
This is the thing, isn't it? I'd have someone with captain credibilities in the bank. Not that I don't rate Conor Murray. I absolutely rate him. He's clearly a world-class player. Again, I'll be honest, I didn't even have him down as a nailed-on starter. So that obviously shows how much I know. I actually thought Addy Price was brilliant when he came on. I thought he was brilliant. I know it's Japan, without being horrible to them. I know, the Lions looked very comfortable in the first half. But I didn't have him as a nailed-on starter, not because he's not good. Obviously, he's a world-class player, but I've not seen him be captain before. And I think, there's a superficial opinion around that, but I don't know him that well. I'm not on the inside. Gatland knows. Gatland makes the big decisions. And like you said, who else is there? There was obviously
let's dissect
about Matt. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, let's dissect your captaincy credentials for players, because you said you need captaincy material, so you need someone that's captained the team and history of it, and you'd rather a forward. So you name me a forward in that Lions squad that has captained international rugby and is someone that has the credentials to do it. I can only think of one potentially.
Well, that is the whole thing around it. So a Jamie
The
George
only two.
or a Ken Owens. No,
Ken
he
Owens
hasn't.
is-
No.
Ken Owens is the only one I think that would have had captaincy experience at international level in that forward pack. But is he a nailed-on starter? I don't think so.
Well, that is the worry going into the tour, then, isn't it? Because of the experience in the pack, in terms of leadership and being able to put your foot on the ball and slow it down or speed it. Like that, like we've all been in matches, haven't we? Where if you've not got the captain, you need the vice captain to step up and make them big calls. do you know what I mean? But I think that's the thing. That's why there's a mixed response around Conor Murray. It's not me saying he shouldn't be captain. You've convinced me otherwise. Like there's other people I've read. I'm like, well, actually, yeah, like I get that. But if you look at it, that is the slight worry, isn't it? That's why we all went with Alun Wyn Jones as our captain because there weren't anyone else. Like Faz, after Bigaroo's performance at the weekend, I thought he was absolutely sensational. Yeah. He's a starting 10 now. So is Farrell going to play 12? Oh, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? See, when you're looking at international captains from the Six Nations, you've got Stuart Hogg, who can't get his club team at the minute. And I don't mean that in a mean way. But he's captain at fullback, so that doesn't fit your kind of rhetoric around it. Should be a forward. Is he going to be the Lions 15? Possibly. Owen Farrell's the other one that's captain England. It wasn't a very successful Six Nations, and you go back to Refgate and all that stuff against Wales and how he handled stuff. Is he going to be the starting 10? You don't know that. So for me, when you said it then, you actually said it. You sometimes need someone to put their foot on the ball, slow it down. Jim, Conor Murray's the ideal man. He's got the experience of previous Lions tours. He's the next most experienced player, I think, in the squad behind Alun Wyn Jones. He's Gatland's right hand man. I think he started all the tests in New Zealand. I'm pretty sure he did. He's got a huge amount of experience. He's a calm character. He's got control of how the team plays. That's why I think when you're looking at the squad, there isn't another standout person where you go, people are going to go, Maro Itoje, but then Maro's not captain the team yet, has he?
Jim, you mentioned Maro once.
Yeah, well, I mentioned Maro not because of his leadership credentials. I'm a complete hypocrite here. Because of the profile around the tour with him and Sia Khaleesi and a documentary being made. I have been creative.
You've got to let that go, mate.
Yeah, I have. But look, you're convincing me now about Conor Murray. He's also a 9 out of 10 good-looking bloke as well, isn't he? For someone who lives in Ireland and hasn't seen the sun, he's a good-looking man. So all these things marry up. But let's be honest, that's the worry then going in. You look at the experience of the South African team and some of the players that they've got across the ball. Across the board, is that a saying?
Across the board.
Okay, yeah, let's say across the board sounds so much better. That's where the worry is, isn't it? So I think, like Goodey said, everyone wants Maro or has wanted Maro because the romance around Maro Itoje, he's a guaranteed starter. But yeah, that's the crux of it. Look, I'm happy that Conor Murray's captain. It's obviously not great for Ali Price, is it? He's fighting for one position now when you hear that. But like you said, the experience and the history that he's got, absolutely. I'm with you.
And there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before we get to the test matches. But people look at it in two different ways. And you look at this Lions squad, and I think it's really exciting the fact that right now everyone's struggling to pick a nailed on Lions 15. There's probably 5 players, I reckon, that are nailed on starters at the minute. Whereas you go back to other test tours, go back to 05, Clive Woodwork, Sir Cliff Woodwork, whatever you want to call it. He took his test team to one island. He sent the Shags to another island. The Shags had a better time than the Test boys, but he picked the Test team before the Lions tour even started, hadn't he? And he made
what a cowboy.
There we go. So I think it's actually really exciting that you're looking at this squad now and you go in, these warm-up games are going to be massive because so many people are vying for a starting slot on the Test matches because there is so little to choose between some of them. Bigger put his hat in the ring to be the starting 10 at the weekend. Conan, he was.
Can he not be captain?
Number 8.
Can Bigger not be the way that he plays?
Well, he's not guaranteed yet, is he?
He is
but then
now.
He also gets really emotional with it as well. As in, you always see, people have had a bit of a pop at Dan Bigger about the way his arms go up, and he has a pop at the ref, and he's always talking. He's that ultra competitive person, isn't he? Which I think is a really good thing because it's the nature of a 10 to be that way. But sometimes maybe that's not the way you want your captain to be perceived. So, but yeah, you go across the board. I thought Conan was brilliant at the weekend. And, people are saying maybe Falatau's definitely nailed on to be number 8. There's players that are going to have so many opportunities if the tour carries on in its full capacity. We're hearing about possible changes that it's all to play for these Lions test slots. Whereas years gone by, you go in, well, we know the test team. We know probably 12 or 13 of the test team before the first game's even played. So that's why I think it's really exciting.
Justin Tipuric, he's been ruled out with a shoulder injury as well. So Josh Navidi and Adam Baird have joined the tour. Any surprises with those two?
Not now that I've heard the news around James Ryan. He's got a groin injury. It looks like he wouldn't have been able to train or fly or play. They don't know how long he's going to be out for. Adam Baird, I was surprised. I'll be honest. It wasn't the name that I thought of. No one had him in the squad. You know, Johnny Gray's got to be felt hard done by. He has to be, naturally. But again, look, Gatland, let's be honest, he's got a history of picking the right people. In any tour that we've been on, and regardless if we like it or not, and I know I'm speaking about my mentor in a really good light here, is he picks the right balance. You can look at it and say, 2 Welshmen for 2 Welshmen. I think Tipuric's a big loss. He's a fantastic player. His injury didn't look as bad. It looked like he hurt a rib, or it looked like he went off with a HIA. But yeah, this is the thing. This is the worry, isn't it? You play a game against Japan. Everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to play a couple of games before they put themselves in the shop window for a test match, before they play the test matches. Tipuric weren't meant to play, was he? Hamish Watson was meant to play, pulled out in the week. No. So it's just sod's law, isn't it? I feel for Tipuric off the back of that. But opportunity for Josh Navidi, I think, is wicked. You know, Adam Baird, when you look at it, you know, he's a bit of an old school second row man from my own art. He's a big lump. Is he better than Johnny Gray? I don't think so myself. But, you know, Gatland would have looked at the tape. The coaches would have looked at the tapes, and it is what it is. It almost seems like Johnny Gray's not even being looked into it massively. So, look, you know, huge opportunity for them. And, yeah, that's about it.
I think Van der Fleer, would, would have come into serious consideration. But Navidi, I'm chuffed for Navidi because I had him in my initial squad. He covers 6, 7, and 8, which I think is a real bonus. Devastated for Tipuric because he's been on the last 2 tours. He's never played in a test match. And I think this was his time really to be a test starter. The battle would he have gone head to head or toe to toe or slipper to slipper with Hamish Watson and Curry as an out and out 7? Would they have played, a 6.5 kind of thing with 2 of them playing at 6 and 7? Who knows? But that's water under the bridge now. Josh Navidi comes in, great. I think Adam Baird, from what I heard, shored up the line out. James Hamilton was going hard at Wales's line out for the last 18 months, and I think he said it was a disgrace at one point, which is harsh. But Adam Baird obviously managed to fix that with big Alun Wyn. So I think he deserves his shot. But yeah, Johnny Gray will feel hard done by.
Let's talk about the game then. Did we learn much? Did we learn much from the Lions' 28-10 win over Japan at Murrayfield?
I'd say we didn't learn masses, but it did reinforce Duhan van der Merwe. My God, he's absolutely massive, isn't he?
Yeah, he's massive.
He's, to me now, test starter on the wing. How big. Josh Adams as well on the other wing. Hell of a finish for his try. Mate, it was great, wasn't it? And Jim, it must have been so special for you to be. Reminded me of 4 years ago when we were at the first test of the Lions tour in New Zealand. Just as a ex-player, but seeing how special that is and being right in the mix of it, it must have been unbelievable. Even though, there was half a stadium. It wasn't even half a stadium, was it? But there was, the noise the fans made and seeing the Lions in action in a proper test match. It must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was class and weird, and I felt jealous again. It is that weird thing around the Lions. And I don't know whether it's like the All Blacks, right? The black jersey, the kind of history that goes with it. And having been a player, should have been, could have been, Uncle Hamish said one of the best Scots to have ever done it. And if it was the 70s, I would have been a 2-time British and Irish lineman, arguably the captain. But the red, right? The colour red of the jersey there's something about it. The rich history that comes with it, the romance. And yeah, it just feels special. So like Goodey said, we were there in 2017 in New Zealand, couldn't really be asked, just retired from rugby, was all rugged out. And that was the first time really where I felt it, as opposed to watched it and watched the docs. And again, being there at the weekend, maybe because there was fans there as well, but I was absolutely loving it. All the red jerseys that were littered about in the stadium, out the stadium, the players with it all on. There's something really special about it. And I thought the first half they were brilliant. I thought they rocked up the emotion around the game. That they took it to Japan. Poor Japan. They played a game Is it since the World Cup they've not played a game?
Yeah, correct.
They've had to self-isolate as well when they've come over, and you've got that coming at you. You've got me old Duhan van der Merwe coming at you 100 miles an hour. You've got Robbie Henshaw, who's absolutely obliterating you left, right, and centre.
Bundyaki as well.
Bundyaki, Jack and the Conan and the Barbarians. Let's talk a little bit about the game. I'll go talk about the forwards because I thought some top performances there. The Sheriff, Ken Owens, I thought was really, really good, looking for a load of work. I thought Jack Conan, like you said, was awesome. Ty Byrne, couple of flashes of brilliance. His wheels on that line, hell of a line. He was pointing to me in the crowd as he went through. And his kick downfield, he threw a ridiculous offload. But he's one of them players I think is close to a starting jersey. I think that if he can tighten up a few things. Rory Sutherland, quite quiet, I thought, in the end. It was Ty Furlong who started tighter, didn't he? Yeah. Ty Furlong, a little bit quiet. It weren't really a forwards, a front three, a front five game. I thought Japan, very physical. I mean, albeit the scoreline, then they rocked back. Himeno, oh my God, Himeno off the bench. Some of their players. But I mean, to be fair, out of all the games you'd want to play in a warm-up, it wouldn't be Japan. Like, I thought that before because I was wondering what team would turn up. But really physical game. They obviously got back in. But I thought the Lions looked good. I thought they looked, from where I was sat in the Raw box, I thought they looked in control. Their shape looked good. They were physical in D. I thought Carl Sinclair, when he came on, he looked like he had a bit of a calf strain. But anyway, nonetheless, I thought he was brilliant when he came on. He was physical in the tackle. So look, without
he made about 15 tackles.
He looked good. Like he looked like he obviously we know the emotion around him as well. But yeah, I mean, Japan are obviously a good team now. They've obviously not played, like I said, in a long time. But in the forwards, I think the standouts were Jack Conan. I thought he was brilliant. Ken Owens, I thought he was brilliant as well. And Ty Byrne did some world-class stuff as well.
So you contradicted yourself a little bit there, James.
What did I say?
Well, you said you were sat in the Raw box, and then you also said that Ty Byrne pointed at you as he scored.
No, across.
Oh, across. Okay, yeah, across. Just trying to work out what's the truth and what's not. But yeah, it was great to watch. You know, the big one for me, and I say the big one because Biggaroo gets man of the match, and he has put a marker down now, hasn't he? I know. Listen, the very different fly halves in him and Finn Russell. Him and Owen Farrell are very similar in terms of how they control a game, but you know, we know Dan's the ultimate competitor. We know his Mrs. bakes unbelievable cake. She listens to the pod. So hello, Mrs. Bigger. He's the one that's put down the biggest marker for me in terms of I want this Test jersey. I know he's been a previous Lion, but I don't think there was ever that full fulfillment for him. And this is the tool where he can be the standout 10 and the leader in that position. So hell of a start from him. Van der Merwe, Henshaw and Aki in the centres. I think you're going to do well to break that down now as a combination.
It looked right, didn't it? It looked like, as in the size of them, Robbie Henshaw, how good is he in D, and that physical element. Yeah,
so it'd be interesting to see where Farrell fits into the mix. Does he play 10? Does he play 12? Elliot Daly's down as a 13. Chris Harris as well is obviously there as a centre. There are other options. So, I'd say perhaps the 10, 12, 13 is, as it stands currently, you test 10, 12, 13. There's physicality, there's game control, there's ability to break the line between all three of them. So yeah, I like it. It was a good day at the office. I hope the second half would be a bit better, but you always want to see more points. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Because you're comparing it to what we watched the Premiership final after that game, and you're thinking Lions is great, but it was the second half became a bit of a, it wasn't a tri-fest, was it? And then you watch the excitement of the Premiership final afterwards, and it was just ridiculous. So, we're going to see some exciting games down in South Africa with some looser defences for the Lions to attack against. But it's a decent game and an enjoyable spectacle.
Hopefully we see some games down in South Africa because we've got Vincent Koch, Herschel Yankees, Sebi Nkosi, all tested positive for COVID in the Springbok camp. And South Africa have moved up a step into a much harsher lockdown. Any concerns for the tour at all?
Yes, naturally.
Yes.
Because I'm not worried about the Lions because they are, like everything you hear, are going to be tight, watertight. Spoke to Jason Leonard at the weekend. He's like, they're either going to struggle to get out and play golf and these things because of having to test everyone that's out and about or even close to the Lions camp. So I'm not worried in that sense, but there is a real worry, isn't there? Because South Africa are meeting up, obviously, just now, as we know. Lads flying in from all different places, from UK, from France, obviously South Africa. They're there because South Africa as a country is not well equipped to deal with the situation, as we know, with the history around their country and everything involved around the vaccines. I tell you what, there's a genuine worry that there could be some issues on this, isn't there? The fact that the lads have got to play a number of warm-up games against different teams, and we've seen, the Scotland A and the England A game was canned as well. It just takes one or two for that breakout to happen, and then for you to play a match. We've seen that in the Premiership 2 weeks later, a game gets canned from the team that got COVID 2 weeks before in the lead up to that. It's worrying, isn't it? Because it's not as if now it's just like, oh, okay, well, if there's COVID, we're just going to get on. We're nowhere near that stage yet. So I don't know, could it just be 3 test matches and they completely lock it all down? We know there's no fans at the stadiums. That this was always going to be the worry and the risk, and the point around, should they have come to the UK and done it here? Well, anyway, they haven't. They're on a flight yesterday, being Sunday, albeit delayed because there was something wrong with the fueling thing. I'm such a weirdo, ain't I, looking at the flight stuff. Just thinking about my mates, and they've landed in South Africa, so that's them there now.
I think the big thing around it is initially they're going to try and move everything to Cape Town, aren't they? Because Gauteng, where they're supposed to be based, is apparently perhaps not the epicenter, but there's a massive uplift in COVID cases there, so it is very high risk area. So apparently there's talks of moving everything to Cape Town, moving all the test matches there, which actually could benefit the Lions. I don't mean that in a flippant way, because for anyone with understanding and knowledge of South Africa, Cape Town isn't at the high veld, whereas Joburg, where they were supposed to play 2 of the test matches, is, which is obviously a massive benefit to South Africans because they're used to it more so than the British and Irish Lions players. So, you just hope that the 3 guys that have picked it up in the South Africa squad are okay, but B, everything. I know the Lions have gone to a ridiculous level, and rightly so, of ensuring the bubble. People, security guards, and people that are going to be working with the team have been self-isolating for like 10 days or something over in South Africa. So everyone is committing to trying to keep it as COVID secure as possible. You just hope there's not an outbreak.
Goodey, you mentioned the excitement of the Premiership final. Was it the best one ever?
Yes, I think it actually was. And I don't say that lightly, because obviously I played in a few. We saw some unbelievable games. I go back to Jim Hamilton securing a match-winning penalty for Saracens coming off the bench a few years back against Exeter Chiefs. I think he got on for about a minute and he wins the vital penalty to.
How good though?
Yeah, the final 2 years ago, Saracens Exeter was a phenomenal final as well. But yeah, this final had absolutely everything. It was the best Premiership final we have ever seen. The ebb and flow of the game, the way Quins started, obviously scoring early on, then eventually going 12 points up. Exeter bounced back, scored 2 quick tries in 6 minutes to take a 2-point lead again, and it looked for all love and money that Harlequins were done, dusted, out on their feet, and it seemed to be probably only a matter of time for Exeter to really turn the screw and then go on and win the game. And it just took one moment of fast against slow, supposedly, electrifying guy, fresh as a daisy coming off the bench against someone that's put in one of the biggest shifts you've ever seen last week and again this week. Stuart Hogg breaks through from a box kick from Danny Kerr that was 10 metres too long. Quins didn't seem to have a lot left in their legs, and my Joe Marler pulls out the most unbelievable kind of late tackly dive, last ditch, try anything to get.
It was all right. It was
unbelievable,
yeah.
Mate. Hoggy was in full flow, and
he ran into him. Hoggy ran into him.
The script was written, wasn't it? Hoggy's been dropped. He's the British and Irish Lions potential fullback. He's come off the bench. Obviously Cuthbert got injured. He's making the break. It could be the try that takes him 2 scores clear, kind of thing. And there's old Joe Marler from nowhere, a loose head prop who spent half the game talking, half the game playing. A phenomenal cover tackle that effectively brought a massive amount of belief back into that Quins team. And then they go on. They looked much stronger finishing the game. Lewis Liner, unbelievable. The line that he picked to score his first try, where he goes inside Flaherty. where he goes inside O'Flaherty was just ridiculous.
Johnny Hill's fault.
Smith. Are you blaming Johnny Hill for that?
I'm not. He's boycotted us, mate. Let's just put his name to it. No, we shouldn't. We need to pick him up. He's a good player, but his rib tickler, whatever, is shocking.
Yeah. But the goosey from Marcus Smith, to pull defenders out. It was just so Quins, wasn't it? And, we've all got to eat a lot of humble pie. I was on BT Sport a few weeks ago when Quins went up to Sale. They picked a change-up team, and we were kind of looking at some stats around, Quins scoring tries, Quins conceding tries. And I'm like, yeah, it's all right doing it in the league season. But when you get to semi-finals, you're playing Bristol's who've got one of the best defences, and Exeter have actually got the best defence in terms of tries conceded. It ain't going to be enough. You need to defend better. Oh, no, you don't. Quins have kind of rewritten how the game has been played over the last 6 or 8 weeks. You only need to go back sort of 6-8 months, and everyone was bored of rugby because it was a kick fest. Now, look at what Marcus Smith, Alex Dombrand, Lewis Liner, Joe Marchant was phenomenal as well at times. They're just putting the ball in space and finding weak shoulders. They're offloading game. The breakdown, there wasn't many breakdowns, was there? Because the ball was so quick and it was loose and frenetic, and it was everything that Quins wanted. And it was why they got the victory. Exeter will be kicking themselves a little bit because they're normally that team that plays with a lot of control. Did they get suckered into playing the Quins way? Potentially a little bit. But they were shocked, weren't they? And you can only credit Harlequins for their belief. They just never knew when they're beaten over the last 2 weeks. And I think it's an unbelievable trait to have. And again, looking at that Harlequins team, how many big names are there in that team? Joe Marler's a big name. Danny Care's a big name. Some of the top players, Marcus Smith, young kid come through the academy. Lewis Liner, young kid come through the academy. Tyrone Green played really well again. Youngster, I know he's come over from South Africa, but they're not massive names, are they? Joe Marchant come through. It's not like they've gone and broken the salary cap like Saracens did to win a load of their trophies. But
Quins, Andrew, come on, Esterhazy as well.
Esterhazy, but he's not a massive name, is he? He's a South African international.
I think he's on a fair
South African international. Yeah, he's a South African international. But what I'm saying is, did he start in the World Cup final? No, he didn't. He's not an out-and-out top baller, is he? But he has come to Quins, and he played very well at the weekend. They've found things within themselves that no one else outside of Harlequins would have thought was possible. And you can only credit Billy Millard, all the coaches, Adam Jones, sweating profusely, love it. Imagine the sweat on Adam Jones over the last few days, drinking for 3 days. Nick Evans, we had him on the pod last week, Jerry Flannery, they're all proper top blokes, and they've found something within that Harlequin squad from all the players coming through that there is a real culture and belief. And we questioned it on the pod a few months back, didn't we? I remember questioning Laurie Dalrymple saying, you talk about the Quins DNA, but what is it? Because it's this attacking mindset, we'll score more than you, but it's not won you anything. Well, now it has. The Quins way has won them the league this year, and you can only credit them.
Former Munson, I look at Quins coach Jerry Flannery joins us. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks.
Jerry, you're not. You've just lied. You're not. Hit us, mate. We can hear the kids going mad in the background. You're sweating like mad. What's going on?
I'm frazzled, man. I had 2 days in the piss, sure. My brain is like a head of cabbage, so you might have to be a little bit delicate with me today.
Yeah, let's rewind it then to the game. I mean, actually, park the game for a minute. Let's just hear about the celebrations. 2 days on it is a hell of an effort. Good stories, good vibes. I mean, it's great to be able to be out drinking with the lads again, especially celebrating something as monumental as winning the Premiership at the weekend.
Yeah, it was awesome. We were straight on it in the dressing room. Like, I didn't realize, like, some of the lads had cigars, they had whiskeys, they had, like, I think Danny had a special pair of goggles for the champagne, they were that prepared.
Of course.
And we went from there. We went back to the stoop, and then we had then down to the cabbage patch, and I don't know what time we got out of there. And then yesterday, I think the players rocked down to Brighton, and all the staff, we went up to the ship in Wandsworth, and we were there till I don't know what time. It was awesome though, some crack.
Yeah, fully deserved. Jerry, just talk us where it ranks in things that you've been involved in your career. We were chatting about you last week, actually, watching the emotion from that semi-final, obviously having Nick Evans on last week. And a lot of people are thinking, including ourselves, but many people thought, well, have they played their final last week and the week before? I mean, just talk us where it ranks and the emotion around the group of young coaches that you've got at Quins, but in what you've done in your career as a player.
To me, it was pretty. It was just phenomenal, man. It was like you couldn't write it, man. It was like a movie. And the good thing about it was that like it was a real team effort. There was no one person who could say that they were the reason that we won. It was every single person in the club. I genuinely mean it. Like, it's not like a cliche. I think like I know you boys are tight with Guzzy, and he's my mate, you know. So like I was pretty angry, man. I was very angry when Guzzy left, and you know, I was real disappointed for him, and I didn't really know which way things were going to go. And I listened to you boys because I know you're tight with him, and I felt like you were pointed around Harlequins as a club, and like, listen, I grew up in Munster. Like I played there for 10 years. I coached there for 5 years. So the culture in Munster is, you know, they look at a club like Harlequins. I would have looked like a club at Harlequins, and I'd said, like, these guys are so arrogant, you know, they're so arrogant. They just think they're so good. But when it comes together, like, you saw what they can do. It was phenomenal. But everyone has to be accountable and take responsibility for what they're doing in the club. And unfortunately, that wasn't happening when Guzzy was there. You know, it was all being left on Guzzy, and Guzzy was the guy who went. And then the players, you know, every single person in the club just pulled together and owned their own area, and to a level that, you know, it was just phenomenal. Like, if you look at the resources that we have as a club, and you look at the resources that other clubs have, we shouldn't be winning the Prem, but we have, and now we can lay a foundation, you know. Yeah,
it's phenomenal. And you talk about resources and some of the young kids coming through that have had such a massive impact. Lewis Liner, obviously one of the big stars at the weekend. But one of the things that I've noticed in the last 2 weeks at Harlequins, and it's something that perhaps has come over from Munster and kind of epitomises you as a coach and as a bloke and the other guys within the coaching setup, is just a never say die attitude. You know, you don't know when you're beaten. You look at the semi-final against Bristol, you know, 28-0 down. You look at the final at the weekend when Exeter hit you back with those 2 quick tries, and it looked like they had all the momentum, but bang, you come back and win the game. And, you know, you were dominant towards the end. Where is that sort of attitude where you never seem beaten and you don't know when you're beaten come from? Because it wasn't there earlier in the season, and it's something that has won you the Premiership effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not down to one person. It's literally the players just have this unbelievable belief. And externally, I can see why people can dislike Harlequins, because they seem arrogant. But man, they back it up. Those players back it up. And you know, I spoke to Snap about it, like, and I said it can be viewed as arrogant, and he goes, well, we call it swagger, you know. And I was just, it's the players, man. The players just they just don't know when they're beaten, you know. They just keep going, and they make rugby look so easy at times. That's the thing. They just make it look so easy how they score tries. So I think a lot of the credit is down to those boys. You know, it's they've created a really strong culture, and it's a unique culture. It is not a it is not a Munster culture. It's not Saracens culture. It's unique to Harlequins. I don't know if you could replicate it anywhere else. And I think that's a big learning for me from coming over here, is you don't try and force a culture on a place. You know, it has its own identity. And to be fair to Billy Millard, like Billy was a big driver in getting Owen Eastwood in to do all this work. And, you know, like, I look at that stuff and go, oh, that's fluff, you know. But it's actually, it's probably the most important thing we did. And I think that allowing the players to really drive it, they were so empowered, they were so accountable every week, and they were just a pleasure to coach.
It's really interesting you mentioned about the culture, because it is something that we've spoken about, and I'm happily put my name against my experiences playing against Quins. Listen to Alex Sanderson in the lead up to playing you guys as well. So it's kind of out there in the domain, the way that Guzzy obviously left. So it's really interesting that we're actually speaking about this. And again, something we spoke about last week in terms of, I noticed something different watching you guys and watching the emotion and watching how real the relationships, not just as coaches, but the young lads had with the older guys. Billy Millard mentioned it when he was interviewed both last week and this week. And let's be honest, Joe Marler's a huge character in the game of rugby, just both on and off the pitch. It seems like they've managed to find a way to bring him in and let him have a little bit of ownership. Obviously spoke at half-time of the game, flew in via chopper last week. I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Like, not all cultures are the same, Vlad. Like that I think that's the point, is it? If Guzzy comes in, it's all about defence and getting off the line and being hard and smashing them. Whereas you spoke about this week, Quins' DNA is bringing Danny Care bringing a mass to the final because he thinks they're going to win it. You know, it is throwing the ball around. It is flying Joe Marler in via helicopter. Do you know what I mean? It is like these kind of different things, these quirky things that make a team. I just think it's really interesting. So my question is around the influence of Joe Marler and getting him back on side, and Danny Care. There was question marks whether he was going to stay at the club. Obviously, Mike Brown's leaving, but we saw he was front and centre of lifting that trophy, and rightly so for what he's done for the club. But guys like Joe Marler, Danny Care, like the backbone of the team, like they've been phenomenal the last couple of weeks, especially.
Yeah, they have, and it's been really, really helpful having the likes of Danny and Joe Gray, Will Collier, guys who were there before. You know, like Snap was there as well, but he's not a player now. But they know they were able to really bring it back to what they felt. This is the culture at Harlequins. It's about, like, Harlequins isn't a place. You know what I mean? It's not a place. Like when Munster win, any guy that lives in Munster goes, oh, I can row in behind that. Harlequins is more the spirit of how they play the game, and it's very easy to go away from that and to try and build your game plan around what you see as this is the conventional way to play rugby. This is the way that this is these stats. You know, that this is what wins games. But like Danny and Joe really, really believe in the Harlequins way, and that's how we played, and that's how we trained, and you know, all of this stuff that, like, you just can't replicate it elsewhere. You need those guys to do it, and they were front and center and driving it, and you just have to you just embrace it. You embrace it and try and add in the places that you think you can help.
One of the big things that's obviously come out this year after Guzzy moved is you guys taking over as a kind of group of coaches. We're hearing over the weekend that Toby Matson is possibly coming in as head coach. How do things change the dynamic of things? Obviously, you guys have been part of that decision. I know it's not been officially announced yet, but you must be looking forward to working with him as
well. Yeah, I don't know how things will go. I think we've probably all seen that, like, by people, you know, by people owning their area, because let's be fair on it. Like when Guzzy left, we kind of had a bit of a free shot, you know, as a coaching group, because the expectations when a club sacks the head coach are pretty low. So, you know, I don't know if that would have been the case if we don't have a head man next year. I'm not sure if the expectations are going to be a lot higher, and you know they generally fall on the top guy, and Guzzy was the guy who took the fall earlier in the season. How the dynamic is gonna evolve now with a new head coach coming in, I don't know, but I think that if we stay true to what worked this year, and just generally just let the culture evolve rather than trying to change anything or make it all about, like, if new head coach coming in and making the culture about him, it's not going to be like that, you know. Billy and Laurie and the boys won't allow that. They've done too much work, and I think we all believe in that as well now. So.
Well, Fla, we'll let you go, mate, because we'll let you keep sweating and sweat the fear out. There shouldn't be much fear, though. There shouldn't be much fear.
Just happiness.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations, mate. Genuinely, hand on heart, it was class to see what you guys have done and the emotion around it, and kind of brought back that, you know, reason why we love the game. Do you know what I mean? It's been a tough year for everyone, and just to see that raw kind of emotion, for me personally, it was class.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be involved.
Top lad. Tell the Bedlam that in the background.
Yeah.
Tell the Bedlam that. That is what you call fronting up.
Yeah, there's Bedlam, there's beer sweats, there wouldn't be, like you said, there wouldn't be any beer fear because it's just beer celebrations that you've won.
Yeah, but if you've got in at 4 or 5 in the morning, I don't know what you can and can't do. Put your mask on, don't wear your mask, put it over your eye, put it on your throat. But it's obviously, as a father, that's what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just heard and what you've just witnessed is reality, right? In my house and most other people's. Andrew's with the nanny, slightly different, but you rock up, you got a bit of work, you want to come and chat about the podcast, you got the kids, son. You've been out on a jolly for the last 2 or 3 days. Jerry, I don't care what you've done. I don't care if you're an absolute legend. You've got the kids. You've got the kids front up. But yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, he was class though, eh? Candid, and spoke about Guzzy as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you listen to him, and I don't know him that well, but when you actually listen to it, I'm just trying to imagine being a player, being coached by him, because you kind of live and breathe every word he says then, because he's articulate, he's passionate. You can see he understands what the club's been through, and he said openly he was angry when Guzzy left. You know, he didn't think that was right, but ultimately it was the 100% the right thing, because they've all started to own their areas of coaching. They've gone back to the Quins way of life, and listen to Billy Millard, his interview, and he talked about going all the way back to what is the DNA of Harlequins 100 years ago, and it was chucking the ball around, having a bit of fun, and playing the Quins way. And for a Munster mum to come over who's so ingrained in what Munster do, and everyone's kind of thought process of what that should look like, to go to Harlequins, the complete opposite, and bring some strengths with you, but also understand a club's culture and identity, and then add to it the way he has. I mean, it's a phenomenal signing by Guzzy, but also since Guzzy's left, he's obviously done a hell of a job within that coaching team. And they fully deserve to be champions, and he fully deserves to be hung over like you wouldn't believe, and have the kids lobbed on him and said, they're all yours. They're all yours. Deal with them for a couple of days. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely.
And interesting that he listens to the pod, so we know that Jim's been giving them their team talks.
Well, it is humble pie. It is humble pie. But you know what? It's like he said it himself. He said the perception and whatever it is, arrogance and swagger. And look, we're all watching it unfold, aren't we? Like, what they did at the weekend and the week before is undeniable. There is no question marks. And I think it's really interesting listening to him talk about it, and talk about bringing Owen Eastwood in, who I know. And he's got to be convinced that that's the way forward. Guzzy leaving, like, we weren't happy about it. He weren't happy about it. But I think it's this journey that different people are on, and understanding different ways to play. Like, if I was a player, I would have hated to play the way that Harlequins play. But as a fan and in the media, there's no better team to watch, let's be honest. So it's part of, it's opinion, isn't it? It's like, I love the way that Exeter play. A lot of people would find that quite boring, quite limited. And it showed at the weekend. We spoke about it, tweeted about it, about how good the Premiership's been. A large part of that is what Harlequins have done. Like, to go 28-0 down against Bristol, who finished top of the league, to go through the season which they've gone through, the question marks around them, the question marks around Joe Marler, Mike Brown leaving, Danny Kerr, is he staying? Like, all these different things. Marcus Smith, is he, can he control a game? I'll tell you now, I'm happy to eat humble pie, because I thought they were absolutely phenomenal at the weekend across the board. As soon as they started, and it was 10 minutes into the game, that their level of physicality that I've not seen, I was like, now, I'm telling you now, as an expert, that's what I'm saying to myself, that these lads have got a chance now, because they're there, and you can see that they were laser focused and they were on it. So I'm happy to be proven wrong. Look, I'm just a joker at the end of the day. And I said it to Fla there. The emotion around it is genuine, isn't it? You can't fake emotion and the realities of what it's like to be a sportsman or a coach, or a sportswoman for that matter. So, class acts all round, and tip of the absolute slippers to them.
The funny thing is, Jim, you said then that you're a joker. I don't know whether that was a play on words, because the Harlequins, the Jesters, and all the stuff that's in their history. But you wrote Quins off again. Didn't you say you'd get a Quins tattoo if they won the league?
Last year. I said that to Joe Marler.
Oh, come on!
Last year, imagine
come
that.
On.
Imagine.
I don't think there was a time. I don't think there was a timestamp on it that said this season if you win it. I think it was a timestamp. I think it was a unlimited timestamp where it's if you win the league, I'll get a Quins tattoo. So I need to see it, Jim. Where's it going?
Deny. It was you who said that. You're going to get a tattoo.
No, James. No, James.
Well, Quins are the Premiership champions, and we spoke last week about Saracens being back in the Premiership next season. And we can have a chat now with the man who was their player of the season this year and has pretty much filled Jim's boots at Sarries and Scotland. Tim Swinson joins us. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks, Rob. What an introduction.
So I made sure it was good. Did you feel pressure turning up to Saracens, having, been in the same changing room as me with Scotland, but then obviously knowing that you're going to have to go there and fill that player's player of the season? Should have been void that I left.
Well, I had that worry going there, but as soon as I got there, they're like, yeah, don't worry about that. That guy, who was he? He lived on the physio bed in the corner, and finally got someone who's properly Scottish. Then they found out I grew up in London, and they're like, well, yeah, you're just as bad as he is.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you are the greatest second row to ever play for that club, Saracens. After, obviously, Jim claims it was him, but it wasn't. Scott Murray was there as well. But you are the greatest second row ever to play at that team. Is there any beef between you and Jim now? Because I feel it from Jim sometimes. Nothing to do with the 2015 World Cup and the two-step lob, but he's now, you've now taken the mantle on as Saracens Player of the Season, an award that Jim never even got close to winning.
I mean, to be honest, I feel like Jim's just a lot of aggression towards me, Like going back 5 years, like even, I mean, it might just be that, you know, my body looks like it's in proportion as well. Like even going back further back like that, you know, no regrets about tattoos or anything. I don't have those yet. But, you know, it could be lots of things.
Swinner, let's get the elephant out of the room, because we do speak about it on here a lot, and this is something we haven't spoken about. Obviously, we've gone back and forth on message and congratulated you on your Players Player of the Season. In that let's not worry about you being on your honeymoon and going to the World Cup. That's a reflection of Vern. Why in that game, for everything that I taught you, Richie, all the other guys in that Scotland team, was a two-step lob not called against Australia at the front of that line out? Why are they not calling a two-step lob? Tell me.
Mate, I have no idea. I just remember seeing the ball go over Dence's hands, or probably through them, to be completely honest.
Exactly. Who's throwing to Dence?
Mate, I don't know, but that's a tough task. Let's be honest here. But yeah, it was a bit of a moment that I was just standing at the front, and hopefully Vern doesn't get too mad at me. So, you know, don't point the finger at me.
Who called
exactly.
it? I need to know who called it. Who's going to take responsibility? Because Jim's banged on about this for 5 years now with me. How if he'd have been playing, he'd have called a two-step lob. Scotland would have been in the World Cup final. They'd have probably won it, and you'd have all been MBEs, OBEs, even knighthoods.
Mate, you're saying that, but like my first cap, we're beating South Africa in South Africa at 65 minutes. Jim decides to try and start a fight with Eben Etzebeth, loses, gets yellow
almost
carded.
killed him.
I mean, hey, you remember however you want to be. But then Jim got sent off, and that was us fucked, playing against 14 men. Not ideal.
So he's
No,
ruined
it
your first
wasn't.
cap.
No.
I'm not sure that Jim would be on the field at that point to do the two-step lob. Let's be honest.
No, that is my legacy, Swinner. But let's carry on talking you up then, because I thought you were retiring, right? I thought
I did.
You finish it, and then next thing you end up Saracens, dig them out of. It wasn't a hole; they were obviously going to come through. But how did that come back round? Because it's a twofold question, really. Like, you've signed for Saracens, your boyhood club, or like a team that you grew up with, and then you've ended up playing, and let's speak frankly, as well as you have done this season, in what's been a tough year. How's it all come about?
Well, basically, like, I retired. Like, when COVID started, I pretty much knew I was going to retire at the end of the season, and then I announced it, I think, at the end of May in 2020, and about 4 days later, Joe Shaw gave me a call. So he was my uni coach when I was younger, and then Peely was my uni coach and my academy coach. So I've known them for 15 years. I basically just came and said, "Oh, could you come and help out? We need numbers, obviously, with Will Skelton going to La Rochelle, Marrow being away for a long time. Like, they're short in the second row position. You weren't answering their calls. So yeah, I just basically was going there for a year, and yeah, it was going pretty well. At one point, we didn't think we were going to play a game of rugby because of all the sort of season being pushed back and stuff. But no, it's just been great to be in there. And I think some of the things I've done this year, I don't think I had in me, like a 45-meter touch finder from the 22.
I didn't say that.
I have really no idea what I was doing. I have no idea how it went so well. But I'm sure you'd be in a position with Faz standing next to you and you do something really fucking stupid on the pitch and he has a go at you. And I thought that was coming for me.
Obviously, you went to Saracens, you've done a year there, you're now promoted. You extend the deal. Has another house been thrown into the contract? Because Jim got a one-bedroom flat in Luton. You look like you've got some amazing bay windows there. It looks like a lovely place.
Right.
Maybe St Albans. Is it two-bed you've got in St Albans that they gave you?
This is Scotland. This is up just outside Stirling. That's why there is more than two windows in the wall. So yeah, I'm staying for another year down there. I actually am living with my parents while I'm down there, and the family are staying in Scotland. So I commute from just outside Stirling down to St Albans, which has been pretty tough, but it's been good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell them about that. Swinner, let's speak frankly about it, because obviously with the podcast, me and Goodey have been going back and forth, both personally and professionally around Saracens. And obviously Goodey's had his views on Saracens. I've had my views on Saracens because of my experiences there. So as a player, having been on the outside of the Saracens circle, and now having the opportunity to go in and take aside everything that's happened, obviously the dues have been paid, literally. What's it been like in that culture? Because a lot of people be like, oh yeah, whatever. It's kind of all smoke and mirrors. Can you just give us an insight on what it's like at the club?
I know exactly what you mean. I've obviously played against them, and like when you're playing against them, when you're outside, you think they are like right arseholes. they've got such a tight knit group, and then you go in there and it's really abrasive. You've got to be really good, but like that community is amazing. Like we're talking from everyone from the youngest academy guy all the way up to the current British Lions who are obviously in South Africa now. Like we do everything together. That when there is a team social, way back when, like everyone's in it together. Everyone's going. Like the young guys come in, they're accepted, or you've got like the physios coming as well, the coaches. Like everyone's doing everything together, and it's just a friendly community club. And yeah, it's been so much fun. I cannot tell you just how much more enjoyable the rugby is. It's tougher and more intense, but enjoyable all at the same time.
And do they remember Jim fondly, or is it thank God you're here and not Jim Hamilton?
I mean, when I first arrived, I've been retired for 4 months, hadn't really done much training, and I got chucked straight into the middle of the sessions. And I think that's when they thought, oh, Jesus, we've got another Jim. But thankfully, a 6-month pre-season, and I started to look like an athletic rugby player again, which has been 5 years missing for me. But no, I think that I think they see a lot of the sort of similarities, but there's obviously a bit of a difference between us. You can tell a story far better than I can. But no, they mentioned, I think I'm changing in the same spot as you are now in the changing room.
I mean, imagine the Sappuccinos that he's had there, like the pop moaning that Jim Hamilton does.
Right, I know. Our nickname, right, is the Room of Bloom. It's our changing room. Apparently, when it was Jim, it was the Room of Gloom because it was that negative.
It was, and that wasn't me bringing that down. That was Kelly Brown. Let's get this up. Right. That was basically where they said that the elephants go to die. It wasn't. It's where the guys went to die, but because obviously everyone knows about the protein shake and stuff like that, I changed it to the elephants. That's where they go to die, and that was the Room of Gloom there. Absolutely.
So yeah, like it's the room where you go to retire, basically. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, and then lastly, Swinno, just obviously back in the Premiership now, a lot's happened in the Prem. I don't know if you've watched it unfold. The level has gone through the roof. What's been said at the club, obviously, the makeup of the team is going to look slightly different for a number of reasons. Obviously, Rhodes's now finishing up. There's a Lions tour. How are Saracens building towards this Premiership season? Has it been spoken about the changes in the Premiership and how good some of the teams are now?
No, I don't think the change has yet been spoken about. I mean, obviously we've just finished champ season. We're going back into, I think, starting the 26th of July for pre-season again after a pretty brutal long season. But I mean, watching it, we've obviously been up to date with it. We've watched the games. We've got mates playing at other teams around the league, and they're coming back this year. And yeah, it's going to be different. And you can see with Harlequins winning the style of rugby they're playing, the last 2 games they look fantastic, and just. I mean, like, yeah, it's a breath of fresh air, really, for the way that they won the league. But it's going to be intense. It's one of the most consistently hard leagues in the world. You've got sort of 12 teams who can win any week and against almost anyone. So it'll be good to be back.
Thanks very much for coming on the show, mate. Best of luck in the Premiership next season.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Good to be back after, I think, almost 10 years away.
Great bloke.
Top lad. Yeah, he was shitting himself, wasn't he? He was shitting himself.
No, he wasn't, mate. Basically, every story that you have told me about Tim Swinson and how you used to dominate everything, he's come on the pod here and he's dominated you in every facet.
I have never said that I have dominated Tim Swinson. All I've ever said is that if it was me in that quarterfinal, I would have thrown to the bloke. He was stood there at the front of the line out unmarked, and I would have had the trust, I would have had the decency, and I would have had the bollocks to shout 2-step lob on Swinno, and no one else did.
Let it go, mate. Let it go.
But that's me. That's me talking about. It's a success story, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal story. Like, you retire. I think part of his coming out of retirement was he had to serve his ban for the Barbars, didn't he? So maybe
we didn't ask him about that. Oh, we should have forgot about that. Lad.
Ultimately, it's amazing what a couple of one-bed flats looking over the M1 in Luton can do for you, can't it? Fair play. Retirement plan right there. Go to Saracens. But yeah, I mean, to win the Players' Player of the season, it's not like he's gone there and just made up the numbers, has he? He's gone there and he's properly performed at the end of his career. Some of us can do it. It's full credit to him, and it'd be good to see Saracens back in the Premiership next year with him playing.
Say again, what?
Mainly because he's playing, so I can chat.
Oh, okay, fine, yeah.
Talk him up and tell everyone how much better he is than you were. So yeah,
that's fine.
There we go.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Goodey. Thanks, producer Tim, and thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and head on over to Spotify, and we'll see you there.
We back Rugby Spod.
Spotted pod.